guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's Nurse Clalis here and I am back with another video. If you're new to my channel, welcome, and if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. So today I actually want to do a video about money, about cash money, moolah. So about 2 years ago I did a video like this on my channel, but this video is gonna be quite different. So the video that I did 2 years ago on my channel, it was talking about the private sector versus the public sector in terms of maternity care. So what's gonna happen if you are pregnant and you go through the public healthcare route for your pregnancy, or what happens if you go through the private healthcare route. And that video is actually one of the videos on my channel that did so well, you guys. It's the one video on my channel that has the most views. So I decided that I want to do a follow-up video on that now, but this time I want to focus on the private sector and focus on the finances. How much does it actually cost? If you are pregnant or you're planning to have a baby in the future and you don't want to go through public, you don't want to go through the government clinics or government hospital route, and you want to go into private healthcare sector, so how much does it actually cost? And I think that's information that's not readily available out there on the internet. You really have to search and dig really deep to find that kind of information. So I decided to do this video so that I can make it easy for like all the moms who are pregnant or those who are planning to get pregnant and have kids, and so that they can have a bit of an idea how much it would cost to do this thing and to have your care in the private sector, and so that you can be able to plan in advance and prepare and budget, do whatever is necessary to prepare you. So if you are interested in that kind of content, I suggest you stick around and watch this video till the end. And very, very important, you guys, is if you do enjoy this video and you find it helpful, please subscribe on the red button down below. Do not forget to subscribe. That's very important, so that you can see more of such content. And then also don't forget to share this video if you find it helpful, so that other people can also get this information. And please guys, do engage with the content and leave a comment if you really enjoy the video. So let me not waste time, let's get right into this video. So since I am going to be talking about the cost of maternity care in this video, you guys, let me take this opportunity to remind you that I am a registered nurse and midwife, and I'm practicing in the private sector, and I have my practice, Miracle of Life Midwifery Services, where I offer antenatal maternity care to pregnant women, maternity care throughout their pregnancy, at birth, and after the birth, postnatally. So if you would like to, if you're looking for a midwife, I am here for you. I'm your midwife at your cervix. And when you're doing your research on the midwife or the practice to go for, you can inquire about my services on the details on your screen. So yeah, let's get on with the video, you guys. So this video is obviously sponsored by Miracle of Life Midwifery Services. And you know guys, I invite you to consider my practice if you are pregnant or planning to have a baby, when you are doing your research and looking up the options that I'll be talking to you about in this video. So let's get on with the video. Okay, so please don't mind me looking down. When I'm looking down, I'll be looking at the notes that I have made. Yeah, because obviously I had to do some research before coming to do this video for you guys. So please don't mind me looking down. I'll be looking at the notes and numbers, most importantly, because in this video I want to get you guys to know about the numbers. How much does private maternity care cost in South Africa? So I'll be giving you the numbers. So yeah, guys, let's get on with this video. Okay, so how I'm going to do this video is I think I want to first talk about the midwife fees. Okay, so if you are pregnant and you are going to go the midwife route, provided that you are having a low birth pregnancy, I'm going to talk about the costs related to that in terms of your antenatal care, so your antenatal visits, and in terms of your birthing fee. All right, so and then I'm also going to talk about home births when it comes to midwives, home births, or if you're going to give birth at like a clinic facility that has like a cesarean section theater, like Genesis. Even though it's closing, I'm going to talk about it just to give you guys an idea of how much the cost was. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the midwives first, and then I'm going to talk about practices that are combined, made up of midwives and gynaes, and then I'm going to talk about private hospitals and gynaes. So how much everything costs there. So let's start with the first one, midwife-led care, and giving birth at a facility such as a birthing unit, which is basically a home birth. So let's talk about that. Okay, so in this video, I'm not going to mention the names of the facilities, but I'm going to probably mention like their location, but I'm not going to mention the name of the facility, obviously, because this video is not sponsored and I am not trying to endorse any facility or anyone's practice or anything like that. So I'll just give you guys an idea of where they are and what they are, and then focus on the price. Okay, so one of the birthing centers that are here in Joburg, I'm actually not sure where this one is located. I don't know if it's Roodepoort or somewhere. Okay, and actually I'm only going to talk about the delivery fees. So let's just talk about the delivery fees only and no antenatal fees. So we want to talk about the birthing option. So if you are going to birth at a birthing unit, so one birthing unit that I looked up, I saw that they have a global birthing fee of 16,000 Rand. Okay, so if you're gonna give birth at this birthing unit with this specific midwife, she has her own practice, the cost is 16,000 Rand. And then you have to pay a deposit of 2,500, obviously, before you get into labor. But the fee is 16,000 Rand. Okay. And then another birthing unit that's also around here in Joburg, they also charge 16,000 Rand. But now the difference with this birthing unit, the deposit is 3,000 Rand instead of 2,500. So they have the same price. And then another birthing center that I looked up, it's also here in Joburg. So this one, they charge 14,800 for their birth, and they have a deposit fee of 2,000 Rand as well. So let me just to give you guys a reminder, if you give birth at a birthing unit, you have to be low risk. You will be giving birth with a midwife. Okay, so these are the midwife costs, and usually these costs, they cover the midwife who's going to be helping you to give birth, that whole period when you are in labor till you give birth, and for a few hours after birth, depending on the birthing center, it can be anything from 6 to 8 hours. And this, it also pays for the assistant midwife, because a midwife, when you are in labor, they always have someone else that's going to back them up should there be any complications, especially if it's a home birth. And this amount, it also pays for things like the equipment that needs to be used when you give birth. It pays for the utilities of the birthing center, for all of those things basically. So this 16,000, 14,800, that's what it covers. Okay. And then another birthing unit that's also here in Joburg as well, it has packages. So it has actually divided the care cost into different packages. So the one package has more benefits than the other package, and then so their most expensive package is 19,500. So with this birthing unit, they provide all of your meals while you are there, and they have a 8 to 12 hours postnatal stay. So if you take this package, which is their most expensive package, you're going to be paying 19,500 for that whole period of you being in labor until you give birth, and up until 8 to 12 hours after you give birth. And then the next package, it's 17,500. So this one, it covers your meals, and then it also covers a 6 hours postnatal stay. Then the last package, it costs 15,000 Rand. So with this package, you don't get a doula and you don't get any meals, and you get a 3 to 4 hour postnatal stay. So those are the birthing centers that I'm going to talk about. So basically, in a nutshell, if you have a look at these birthing centers that I have mentioned, more or less, you can expect to pay around 16,000 to 19,000 to give birth at a birthing center. I do believe there are some midwives who charge lower than that price of 16,000. So but basically you can expect to pay around that amount. Some other midwives, they charge 12,000. So it just depends where you are and who you go to. You just need to do your research very well. Obviously, if you are looking for the more affordable option, then obviously you'd have to go to other midwives that charge much less than what you see from the birthing centers that I have mentioned. But one thing I do know for sure is that there are midwives who charge as low as 12,000 Rand. Others charge 14,000 Rand. So it's all up to you to do your research and find the option that will fit your budget. Okay. So now let's say you choose a midwife, but you don't want to give birth at home. You want to give birth at a facility like Genesis. So Genesis, it was under Life Hospital, and it was an antenatal clinic. It was a maternity clinic basically. Well, is, because it's still operating. It will be closing down though in May. That's the official notice that they have given, even on their website. However, it's still operating. But anyways, some private midwives were actually using Genesis to deliver their clients. So you might not want to give birth at home. It might be too much of a risk for you. You probably feel safe giving birth at a place where there's a cesarean section theater. Should there be any complications, everything is just in the same building. Not to say that if you give birth at a birthing unit and there are complications, you cannot get to a Caesar theater, because most birthing facilities are close to hospitals that have cesarean section theaters in case of emergencies. But let's just say you just want everything to be done under one roof. So there are midwives who are in independent practice, and they have birthing rights at places like Genesis, where there is a cesarean section theater. Okay, so some of the midwives that actually delivered there at Genesis, their birthing price would be cheaper if you give birth at a place like Genesis, for example. So for example, one of the midwives from the birthing unit that I mentioned at the beginning, the first one to be more specific, If you deliver at the birthing center, you'd pay 16,000 Rand. And then if you deliver with that same midwife, but you choose Genesis as your birthing facility, then that same midwife would charge you 11,000 Rand. So, reason being, if you deliver at a place like Genesis, that midwife doesn't have to pay for a second midwife to be there when the birth is being done. And the hospital or the clinic's equipment is the one that is used. So there are no utility fees that the midwife has to pay for or equipment, because you use the hospital equipment. But now, if you give birth with a midwife who does their births at a place like Genesis, for example, if you're going to pay 11,000 Rand solely for the midwife, there is a hospital cost that you also need to keep into consideration. Okay. Because now you're going to be at the hospital for a few days, either 2 days if you gave birth naturally, because we're still talking about natural delivery now actually. So you have to pay for the equipment and the hospital staff, because your midwife is not going to be with you 24/7 while you are there. Your midwife's only going to be with you when you are in labor, and then till you give birth, and then maybe a few hours after you give birth, just to make sure that you and baby are fine. So in this case now, you would have to pay the midwife fee, which is 11,000 for example, and then you'd also have to pay the hospital fee, which is 19,000 for a natural delivery only, right? So 11,000 for the midwife, 19,000 for the hospital, and then you also have to pay a pediatrician fee, because there's a pediatrician who will come and see your baby for the days while you are admitted there up until you are discharged. So if you calculate this whole cost now, instead of it being 16,000 Rand had you delivered at a birthing center, now if you're going to deliver at like Genesis for example, it's 11,000 for the midwife, 19,000 for the facility, the clinic, and 3,500 for the pediatrician. So the total cost now would end up being 33,500 combined. So as you can see, it's still cheaper to deliver with a midwife. But now, not everyone can deliver with a midwife at a birthing unit. If you are high risk, you cannot deliver at a birthing unit. So that's just the things that you need to keep into consideration. Okay, so now let us move on from the birthing centers, and now let's look at what the price is like if you want to give birth at a private hospital. So I think we all know the private hospitals that we have, but the private hospitals that I am going to talk about is Mediclinic, Netcare, and Life Hospital. So I'm not going to mention the specific hospitals that charge these prices, but I'm just going to give you the costs. So this cost and the amount, it might differ from hospital to hospital, but from the hospitals that I did have a look at, this is what the price is going to be like. Okay, so let's look at Mediclinic firstly. Mediclinic, if you want to give birth at Mediclinic and you want a natural birth, the amount is 20,810 for 2 calendar days only. So that is 48 hours for a 48-hour stay. And that includes your antenatal period where you are in labor as well. Okay, so that's 20,810. And that's if you are in like a general ward, and then you might find that in that general ward you might have to maybe share the room with 2 or 3 or 4 other moms after you give birth. But when you are in labor, you do have a labor room where you are in the room and you are alone. You're not sharing it with any other clients or any other moms. So that's 20,810 for 2 days. And then if you have a cesarean section at this particular Mediclinic, for 3 days, a 3-day stay after a cesarean section will be 30,315. Okay, So if you want a private room after you give birth, you don't want to share with other moms, you don't want a general ward, there are private room costs that you need to pay. So let's see, how much do they charge for their private rooms? So the private room at this particular Mediclinic hospital, it's 1,830. Okay. So now one thing you have to keep in mind, if you're going to give birth at a private hospital, these fees that I just mentioned now are just for the hospital. So mostly if you give birth at a private hospital, you'll be giving birth most likely with a gynecologist, because midwives don't really have a lot of birthing rights at a lot of private hospitals. So most likely you're going to have to pay the gynae fees, which I am going to get into straight after I talk about the hospital costs. So that's Mediclinic. Let's go on to talk about Netcare. Okay, so Netcare, this particular Netcare hospital, if you deliver naturally, it will be 27,500 for 3 days. Okay, so this one is a bit more expensive than Mediclinic. And then if you're going to give birth via a cesarean section, it will be 37,500 for 3 to 4 days. Okay. So that's Netcare. And I actually forgot to find out about the private room fees. But more or less, private room fees are around 1,000 to 2,000 thereabout per night or per day. Okay. Then Life Hospital, this particular Life Hospital, their natural delivery costs for 2 nights is 30,000 Rand. And if you have a cesarean section and you sleep over 3 nights, it will be 39,000 Rand. And then if you want a private room here, it will be 1,150. So this one is much cheaper than the Mediclinic one. So the private room is cheaper, but the delivery costs are more expensive than Mediclinic, and they're also more expensive than Netcare. So sometimes it depends on where your gynae is, because a lot of people, especially people who are on medical aid, sometimes the medical aids they choose, they have designated hospitals that they can choose from, and they have designated practitioners like certain gynaes that are on their network. And if you're on that medical aid, you have to choose a certain gynae that is on their network that is also delivering at their network hospital. So sometimes, depending on your medical aid, you can't really choose. You only have like a specified list to choose from, and that also affects which hospital you end up going to. But basically, those are the costs that are related to it. Okay, so those are the private hospitals that I am going to talk about. So now, before I go on to speak about the gynecologist costs, I'm just going to talk about one practice. So now this practice, it operates a bit differently. So with this practice, there are midwives in the team, and there are gynaes, there are sonographers, and they all function together and they take care of you throughout your pregnancy. So if you have a midwife, you're going to have a midwife throughout your whole pregnancy, but obviously the midwife is going to have backup gynaes that are going to see you maybe 2 times or 3 times during your pregnancy to ensure that everything is fine. And then the midwife will also have a sonographer maybe that they work with and refer their clients to for their scans and things like that. But all of these people are separate. They're separate entities that have their separate practices. So with this particular practice now that I am going to talk about, these midwives, the gynaes, sonographers, they are all in the same practice. Okay, they are all operating under the same practice. So this practice, it has a global fee, right? So in this global fee, now it covers everything. It's not a global birth fee where it only covers your birth, but it covers your antenatal visits, it covers your blood test that you're going to do when you are pregnant, it covers your scans that you're going to do. It covers your gynecologist visits that you are going to have. So at this particular practice, if you're going to give birth normally via natural birth, this will be done by a midwife. Okay, if everything goes well and you are low risk throughout the pregnancy and even at birth, you are still low risk, you're going to give birth with a midwife. And the global fee, it covers for everything that I've mentioned, including after you give birth, which will be at 3 days after you give birth and up until 6 weeks. And you will give birth at a private hospital with this practice. So it has a global fee where everything is covered in that global fee. So if you're going to have a natural delivery and you are low risk throughout, your fee that you're going to pay will be $36,500, and that includes from the start of your pregnancy till 6 weeks after you give birth, everything including the hospital stay. But with this hospital, your baby is not covered at the hospital. If there are any complications, you need to have medical aid for your baby, of which it applies everywhere else. Even with a midwife, if you are going to maybe give birth at a birthing center, if there are any complications with baby and should baby need to be transferred to a hospital, you are going to need medical aid if your baby needs to go to a private hospital. Okay, so at this practice, $36,500 for everything, including the hospital stay if everything goes well. And then if things don't go well, the price is, I think, $49,900 if you are going to this practice and you already want a cesarean section, or you've had a cesarean section before and then you're going to give birth maybe cesarean section again, then it will be $49,900 for everything, the hospital stay, your antenatal, your postnatal, everything, $49,900. So that's another alternative. If you want things to be better for you, you can choose this one. Okay, so now let's move on to talk about the gynaes. So as I said, when I was talking about the private hospitals, those fees that I mentioned, those 20,000s, 30,000s, they are only for the hospital. So if you're going to be there at that private hospital and you have a gynae, then you need to pay the gynae's fees for your birth as well. Okay, and at a hospital, if you're going to be giving birth at a hospital, you need to also pay for the pediatrician as well, because the pediatrician will come and see your baby each and every day until you are discharged. So let's look at the costs that are related to that side of things. Okay, so I looked at gynaes that are, I tried to sort of like spread them across South Africa and not only focus here in Joburg. So one gynae that I saw, and she practices in Port Elizabeth, so her delivery fee is 13,000. Okay, so whether you give birth naturally or you give birth via Caesar, her fee that you need to pay her is 13,000. Okay, so if you deliver naturally, you are just going to pay that 13,000 rand. Then you're going to pay a pediatrician fee, which is 2,500 if everything goes well during your labor. And then you're also going to pay the hospital fee. So depending on which hospital she's practicing in and the fees, you're going to have to pay that as well. So let's say maybe where she practices, the natural delivery fee and for like a 2-day stay is like 25,000. Then if you're gonna give birth with this gynae naturally, you're gonna have to pay the 25,000 rand, which is the hospital fee, and then you're going to have to pay the 13,000 rand, which is her fee, and then you are going to have to pay the pediatrician's fee as well, which is 2,000 rand. So you do the maths, guys. Yeah. And then if you're going to have a cesarean section, then it's also 13,000 rand for her. But now the cesarean section, it has more costs involved. So the cesarean section, you'll pay for the gynae, you are going to pay for the assistant, because the gynae needs an assistant when they're doing the surgery, and that will be 2,500 on top of that 13,000. And then you're also going to pay the pediatrician fee, which is 2.5. And actually, if it's a cesarean section, the pediatrician might be a bit more, because the pediatrician has to be present now at your birth. So it might be a bit more than if you deliver naturally. Okay. And then with the cesarean section, there's an anesthetist doctor that's needed, which is a doctor that's going to give your anesthesia. Okay. So with this particular gynae, the anesthetist is 7,000 rand. And then if it's an emergency cesarean section, it's a different cost as well. The anesthetist will be 9,000 rand if it's an emergency Caesar. Then with the gynae, if it is an emergency cesarean section, on top of that 13,000, you'll have to pay 2,000 rand more. So the emergency fee is actually 15,000 rand if we are taking the whole amount into consideration. Okay, so if we calculate all of these costs, if you have an NVD, it will be 13,000 plus the pediatrician plus the hospital cost. But if it's a cesarean section, it's the gynae, it's the assistant surgeon, it's the pediatrician, it's the anesthetist, plus the hospital fee. So that amounts to, so that's the amount that you're going to pay if you are going to give birth with this gynae at the private hospitals that she practices at. Okay. Then I looked up another doctor, and this gynae practices in Pretoria. So with this particular doctor, the delivery fee is also 13,000 rand. Whether you give birth naturally or you give birth via a cesarean section. Okay. And then if you want to have an epidural with this doctor, the fee is 4,500. Okay, guys. So my battery died. But yeah, let's continue. So, okay. The next gynae that I'm going to talk about. So this gynae is actually in Cape Town now. And his delivery fee is 16,000 rand for a natural delivery. And then it's also 16,000 for a cesarean section. But if it's an elective cesarean section, you choose that you want a cesarean section from the beginning, it will be 18,000 rand. And then the emergency cesarean section will be 19,500 rand. So basically, those are the costs, and even with this gynae and the previous one that I spoke about, you need to take into consideration the cost for the team and the hospital costs. So yeah, guys, those are the costs for maternity care in South Africa. Maternity care is not cheap, guys. It really needs you to plan in advance, especially if you want to go to the private sector. Public sector, it's free. You can go there, you don't have to pay any cost. But some people actually do not want to go to the public sector, and they want convenience, and they just don't want the hassle that's associated with the public sector, because the public sector is quite overcrowded, if we were going to be honest. So most people really want to ensure that they have a wonderful birthing experience, and they want to go to the private sector so that everything can happen as smoothly as possible. Okay, but one thing to remember is that maternity care is quite expensive. In fact, if you want to go to a private hospital or do anything with a private healthcare professional, it is going to cost you. So you need to know that you are prepared for the cost. So it's a very nice thing to know the costs that are involved before you even plan to fall pregnant. Then you can be able to budget and plan properly. So yeah, I really hope that this video is going to help someone out there who's thinking about having a baby, or who's even pregnant, and trying to think about the kind of care that they are going to have. And so I really hope that this video is going to help someone out there. And if you don't know, guys, I'm also one of the midwives in private practice, and I am running my own practice providing maternity care to pregnant women throughout their pregnancy, their birth, and in the postnatal period. And I help my clients to give birth at a birthing unit. And if there are any complications, my clients are referred to a private hospital where there is a gynae to accept them there. Should they need a cesarean section, or should anything happen and the baby needs to be admitted at the hospital. So if you'd like to know more information about my practice and how much my costs are, please do contact me on my contact details. You can send me a WhatsApp on my WhatsApp business number on 081 211 1156. And you can also send me an email at nurse.hlalis@gmail.com. So yeah, guys, that's the end of this video. I hope it really benefited you, and please don't forget, guys, if you enjoy this video and you learned something from it, please do give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel, and please leave a comment and share this video so other mommies or other couples can benefit, especially those that are planning to have kids in the future or are already pregnant. So yeah, guys, I really am so excited to have you on my channel, and I hope to see you again on my next video. Goodbye.